Welcome to the Conscious Investor. Let's get started. What is it like being married to someone who is hyper ambitious and driven and has tons of energy and takes risks willingly? And maybe you're not totally aligned with that same type of personality. Well, today, and you're already spoiled if you're over on YouTube watching, but if you're listening, I am being joined in the studio today by the most important person on the planet in my life. And I could not do anything that I am doing without this person's support, and so supportive that this amazing, incredible person is even on the Conscious Investor for the very first time. So I just want to welcome my most incredible husband, Steve Hawley, to the Conscious Investor.
I feel like I need a collar to pop here.
You need a collar to pop?
Hello.
Yeah. So, he's willing. You can tell he's supportive because he's here on the podcast. Did I coerce you to come on the podcast?
No.
Did I say I was going to deprive you of anything? I mean,
yeah. Well, there is that. No. I am here on my own volition.
Okay. I'm not, pinching him under the table or anything like that. So all that to say, I thought it would be really interesting because Steve and I are both entrepreneurs. We have been married. How long have we been married now?
Going on 15 years. Or is it 16?
Is it 17?
No, it's not that long.
We should be able to do the math. We should know this. But if you're listening, I bet you might be in the same boat. At some point, you're just like, hey, we're in this for a lifetime. What difference does it make if it's 15, 17, 16? I mean, we're teenagers as married people. I never thought of that.
Well, I'm kind of a 13-year-old all the time. So, I think it's going to be 15 years this year.
Okay.
Or am I still doing my math wrong?
I think we're doing our math wrong, but that's okay.
It could be 16. I'll have to use a calculator.
Right. But I mean, we've done a lot of different things in our marriage, and we've both evolved so much as people in a way that I don't know that other couples have that same stretch that we do, right? Like,
it's very different. I mean, most people, there's like one person who, I don't know, I don't want to say like leads the charge, but more often than not, I think that's usually the case. There's one person who sort of makes the decisions for everything, and everyone else sort of falls in line or suffers the wrath, which may or may not happen occasionally here. But
full disclosure, just so you know, we're not censoring anything because there are a lot of other couples out there that listen to this, and a lot of women that listen to this, and really the impetus for having this episode was like, hey, how do you manage? And I think this is really, maybe we should start with some of our backstory first about some of the things that we've done. I've woven a little bit into the podcast over the years, but I mean, most of y'all know that we met in middle school. My mom gave him a detention his first day of school.
She kicked me out of class.
Straight up kicked you out of class.
Yeah, she did. I didn't like her for a long time because she was the mean lady that kicked me out of class.
And took your hat, right?
Yeah, she probably did that too.
I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, that was back in the days when you could still, schools were transitioning from, you could wear hats at school to where you couldn't, because if you did, you were a gangsta.
Oh yeah, West Side.
Yeah.
So we were friends in middle school. We weren't enemies or anything like that in high school. We were amicable, but we were in different circles. And then our paths reconnected when we were in our mid-20s. That was the best reconnection ever. I'm so glad that happened.
I'm happy it happened.
That's good. So if you're listening or watching, you can tell like we're very different in our temperaments and levels of expression and everything, which, that provides a unique dynamic, I think, to our life. But I mean, we decided, so after we got married,
That's a nice way of putting it,
right?
or a delicate way of putting it.
Delicate.
A unique aspect, dynamic.
But it is, and I think more people have that than are willing to admit it. And you and I are like so transparent and everything that I think that's helpful for people. But so we got married in our mid-20s. No, we didn't. We got together in our mid-20s. We got married. I was 29 when we got married, right?
You were old.
Thanks. I'm even older because this morning I discovered my first gray hair.
That's pretty cool. I like it.
I was really proud of that moment.
I like gray. Gray's good.
Gray is good. It's really good. It's a gift. Like getting older is definitely a gift. So we got married, and right after we got married, we moved out to Denver. Then we moved to California. Then we moved up to Idaho. And then we had all these job change things. Like even that right there, a lot of people are unwilling to pivot in their career, in their field, in their industry. So like, why don't you share a little bit about, from your perspective, about how, what that was like for us?
Going from California to Denver?
Yeah, or any of those, because we've done a lot of career transitionings and supporting each other.
Well, you were always on the straight and narrow, like straight out of high school. You went to college, did 5 years of college in 4 years, the overachiever, and I went snowboarding. So that's, yeah. So by the time we got married, I had just graduated college and didn't really have a job. And we moved, halfway across the country. And it was really hard because you had, a teaching position, and I was still trying to break into the industry that we moved there to break into for. So yeah, it was kind of beat me up quite a bit. And
that was tough.
That was no fun at all. And then when I broke into the industry.
What industry?
The outdoor industry. Like I worked for like if you go into an REI, they have all these different brands that they carry. Well, I worked for one of those brands. Like the Denver, Boulder area is kind of the hub of the outdoor industry. And I was working for one of those companies, and the only thing really different was I could wear shorts and a t-shirt to the office instead of, slack, country club casual. But it was still just another giant corporation that didn't care about the employees. It was, how much could they squeeze out of you? And I didn't like that. So yeah, it was shortly thereafter that I started, I got my real estate license, and I did it fast. Hey, there's something I did quickly.
Yeah, seriously. Yeah. What's interesting about you getting a real estate license was the timing of it, because we didn't even know if we wanted to have a family. And we moved out to Colorado and had this huge lifestyle change. And next thing you know, we were expecting our first child. And then after I think he was born, and I think I was standing at the dog park at our condo complex, and you had gone for a run, and you came running up, and you had this epiphany of
yeah. And you laughed at me.
I don't remember. I don't remember it as laughing at you more than like
remember the laugh. Yeah.
I don't think it was like a laugh like, oh my gosh, that will never happen, but like, oh my gosh.
That's how I took it.
You want to go into real estate? Of course you do. Like that's my family pedigree, and something,
Well, there's a long backstory to this, but I was out running and thinking and praying and thinking and just hating the job that I had. And I think there was still snow on the ground because we had come back.
It was cold.
Yeah, because we had gone back to California and hung out with family for Christmas. And your dad was able to schedule time to hang out with all of us, but he was still doing work because, he was a real estate agent. And it really opened my eyes. Being the hardcore introvert that I am, I'm like, sort of a stupid idea of that, me going into real estate. You have to be like Mr. or Mrs. Outgoing to do something like that. So when I told you that idea and you laughed at me, I mean, that's what I was thinking was a stupid idea. And I didn't say anything else about it. I would have just thrown that idea away right then and there. But later that evening, you brought it back up, and you said, why'd you walk away or whatever? And I don't remember. I mean, it's a long time ago, but but you had said that you basically had the same idea that I had, and that's why you were laughing. So, and it makes you wonder how many of those little miscommunications end up going nowhere because we made an assumption, and I totally made an assumption there. Thanks, dear.
Well, I'm glad that all these years later now, I'm not the one that actually laughed at you.
You totally laughed at me.
But it wasn't that kind of a laugh. It was that laugh of like, oh my gosh, I've been praying about, what we need to do career-wise for you and things like that. And I'd never pictured you going into real estate in that capacity.
Me either.
And then it's all of these things just start unfolding, and it was incredible. And so you went into real estate. So we have this newborn baby. I am staying at home with this child. And so we went from having a stable teacher income to now I'm staying at home with this child. And now we're going through this career transition. And this right here, honey, this hangs a lot of people up because people want to have like, well, we got to have a whole years worth of savings, and we have to have like everything perfect so that we can make this next change. Like, and you're, in society, and society's shifting, but it's like, you're the breadwinner of the home. So like, how did you navigate that as a provider of a family and such?
I don't even know how I did it. I mean, for those who remember, this was 2008. So who remembers the residential real estate market in 2008? That's when I got started. And I think it may have been your dad, but it could have been somebody else. But they said, if you can make it work right now, you should be able to make it work in any market. And the first couple of years were pretty tough. I mean, I guess for a first year agent in a huge cutthroat market like Denver, I guess I did okay. But yeah, I didn't really feel like I knew what I was doing either. But yeah, I don't know. It was very, very frustrating. It was a very uncertain time. I don't want to repeat that. It was not fun.
I know, but we seem to gravitate towards all the uncertainty.
It seems to be the case. Why we gotta stop doing
that? I don't know, but it turns out really well. I mean, it's uncomfortable and all, but it ultimately turns out.
It always turns out or works out.
Yeah.
But it doesn't seem like it at the time, more often than not.
Yeah. So we ended up going back to California. So then he had to restart a real estate business there.
Yeah, starting in real estate is hard enough. Starting again, well, it just sucks. Anyway, go ahead.
But that turned out really well for you. And that was a great experience. And then we end up moving up to North Idaho. And that's when I went back. And that's like, we've actually had these things where we've supported each other where, okay, we knew moving up here, there wasn't, you're going to have to reestablish yet again another real estate business and get started. And it's a small town. We had so many question marks. And so that's when you said like, hey, will you go back to, teaching for a little bit to be just like the stable income. And I think you and I've had a lot of flexibility with that, where we're like supporting each other in some capacity to say, okay, I've got this stuff covered so that you can go pursue this full force.
Yeah. Well, I know it was really hard making that move. I mean, California being the crazy place it is, it was hard leaving that, because
the income was so nice.
The income was good. I was crushing it. And I mean, I felt crazy for leaving that. What was at that point an established and establishing business. And I was just crushing it in that market. And to just leave all that behind, because you obviously can't take a residential real estate business with you. So it was, oh man, so we're going to do this again. All right. Let's go team, go. So yeah, I don't want to do that again either.
I don't want to do that again either. No.
But here we are, about 6
Yeah, 6 winters in.
Yeah, and it's snowy outside.
6 winters in, and now you just opened your own, we partnered and you're managing broker of an actual
office. We opened an office here locally. A couple of the other agents from another office, and yeah, it's been open for, what is it,
a month now.
29 days officially.
29 days.
Yeah. So no, that's exciting. It's really cool, and people are already starting to sort of see that we have a presence here, and that's great. So now anyone moving to North Idaho, here's my card.
Yeah. Oh, definitely anywhere in North Idaho, or if you need a referral for that matter, in most anywhere. But I really appreciate how, it's like I left the residential space. I left teaching, which was a blessing to be able to step away. I love teaching and everything, but I was being drawn to teach and empower adults through the real estate syndication. And when I came to you and said, well, actually, I mean, you had said, hey, we'd had a lot of conversations. Let's go back. We'd had a lot of conversations where I'm like, okay, we have this money sitting there. It's driving me insane that it's sitting in a bank and that it's not invested. And you're like, you figure out what you want to invest in and then bring it to me. I like that. You know how to delegate really well. Like you go do the work and then report back. So that's when I found syndication, and I came to you and I'm like, hey, this is what I want to do. And so this has been a very healthy back and forth exchange as to like you and I supporting each other as we're finishing college or whatever it is that we're doing, making a career transition. It's really cool. I really appreciate that about you.
We've always been able to bounce back and forth. It wasn't always ideal. It certainly wasn't always ideal. But you have to be dynamic when making any sort of, growth step. It's, if you're inflexible in what you're willing to do, then, you know how that works.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and I'm thinking about so many people that end up, they don't have the support of a spouse. And so they can't make all of those pivots and transitions. And I think it's so much easier to evolve as a person when you have that supportive spouse, and you can just, grow together and say, okay, it's almost like we saw a commercial for wrestling or something recently. It's almost like wrestling where you're like tagging somebody to come in, and it's like just swapping and someone can catch their breath, but it doesn't come without its pain points for sure. In the last year, we partnered into that business, and I was growing 3 Keys investments, and then I lost on it in the e-commerce investment. Like that was really, and you've never rubbed that in my face, which is huge. Like absolutely huge. I really appreciate that.
No, it's no fun to lose money, of course, but every investment is a gamble. Every but what do I always tell Will? Nothing worth doing is easy.
Right.
I mean, that's somebody else said that much wiser than me, but it's true. And not everything can work out. There's no guarantees in any of that.
Kind of sucks. I like things that work out. I don't like losing. I'm a poor loser.
I don't want to lose anything either.
I'm a poor loser at that. All right. So really, I would like to maybe say what advice would you have for other husbands who have really ambitious wives? Because there are lots of women that are wired in a similar way to me. Mm-hmm. And their husbands may not have evolved to this point yet, to where, I mean, you just say, go for it. And you ask questions and you make sure that we're on the same page, I would say.
Yeah. But so what's the question?
So I guess the question is like, what advice would you have for other men who are, their life partner is an ambitious woman who is
Well,
like, oh, I'm evolved. I need to go do this.
well, one of the worst things you can do is try to hold them back, because then there's just going to be, you know, frustration and resentment and all that kind of stuff. So don't do that. I mean, talk about it. You know, I mean, not all ideas are worth pursuing, of course. And I think that's where we've done a pretty good job, is trying to identify, well, is this an idea worth pursuing, or is this just another fun idea that's sort of stupid, you know?
Mm-hmm.
So be willing to discuss openly. Um, the yeah, I mean, I think that's one of the biggest things right there, is just be able to discuss it openly and without any ego or whatnot involved. Does that kind of answer your question?
No, yeah, that totally answers my question.
No, yeah, no, yeah,
No, yeah, no,
okay.
yeah. It's
Or
like
yeah, no.
the reverse Jerry
Okay.
Seinfeld thing. You know, it's not. Yeah,
Hmm.
no, it's no, yeah. You know, I mean, you and I know that I've like always been in a lot of male dominated spaces, and I can see a lot of husbands seeing this and being like, you know, for anyone, you know, women wanting to go into real estate syndication, it's still fairly male dominated. Not fairly, it's still very much male dominated and everything. How do you reconcile that as a man? Because I think a lot of, you know, men get protective, and they don't want their partner, you know, out in that type of environment necessarily. So what do you do with that?
Well, I mean, I don't like the fact that there is, you know, traveling involved, and then you're in places that, well, I tend to not trust the general public. So, so it's rough. But on the flip side, you know, there's certain things that have to be done. You know, you have to go do due diligence on a property. You know, you have to go to different events to, you know, grow your skills, your mindset, meet other people. And so I think it just comes down to a healthy balance and understanding of, you know, what's necessary, what's not, and kind of going from there. Does that make sense, or am I rambling?
No, you're not rambling at all. No, and I think that's the common question that you asked me, is like, is this necessary? I actually think that I'm quoting you repeatedly. Yeah. That's your regular question to me. Is this necessary? And it's good, because I mean, I'm always full of lots of ideas and excited about so many things that might be one of those questions I need to have in a sticky note in front of me. But you've asked so many times, it's in my mind, like, is this necessary? Definitely.
Well, you're such an idea machine, and it's always been that way. And some of them are great ideas, and some of them are less so. And so sometimes you have to just sort of cut to the chase. It's like, is this a good idea? Is this not? Or is this something that should be worked on? And, you know, I think it saves some time that way.
Yeah. Yeah, I'd say so.
I think.
Yeah.
Maybe.
You know, I'm in it, like, since we're pretty transparent, I mean, there is an event I went to in, you know, last year at one point. So I won't say which event or anything like that. I went to this event, and it was the first time I was traveling solo, because we've always gone to events together, even as a family, taking our kids.
And we like traveling, seeing new places and whatnot.
Yeah, yes, and we love exposing the kids to the different, you know, parts of the country and everything. But the kids weren't going to be able to come, just the timing of it, and it's kind of complicated leaving our home just with animals and things like that. So it was like, okay, I'm just going to go by myself. And there was so much tension before that event between the two of us. Like, I think I was nervous because I hadn't traveled solo in so many years, that I was, you know, just trying to remind myself it really isn't a big deal. I really know what I'm doing, and I know how to travel. I'm going to be totally fine. But then there was this tension on your part. What was your tension?
The world is a big, bad, scary place. And, well, I mean, that's the main thing is I don't know. I'm a bit of a skeptic. Well, you call me a skeptic. I call myself a realist, which, you know, have that debate. But I think most people are on the up and up, but that's certainly not all of them. So
Yeah. I think ultimately, I mean, it turned into this. I mean, we actually had a bit of a little argument about it, a tiff of sorts, and it had a surface to where, finally, I think I'm like, I'm traveling alone, and this is how I'm feeling about that. And I think you ended up coming out saying, I can't protect you, and I just want to be around so I can always be your protector, which is like the sweetest thing.
no,
That's what I know that you wanted to do
yeah.
that.
Well, no, I take that seriously. I mean, it's not like I'm going to start boxing ears of anybody that looks in your direction, but there are, well, I don't know. I won't go down that rabbit hole, but I want to be there in case, just like you want to be there in case.
So, okay. So a lot of men probably feel that way, right? Like, I don't want my wife traveling alone. She's new to this. She doesn't really know these people that she's going to meet with. Like, she might know them, but she doesn't actually, like, they're not our friends that we go to dinner with. They're not, I mean, so what solace how did you find solace?
I found solace when your car pulled back in from the airport. That, I mean, honestly, that's like, okay, it's like 2:00 in the morning. Like, I'm usually out. We're both usually out long before that, but I'm not sleeping until you're home, which is pretty much how it was the entire however many nights you were gone.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, well, I'm just gonna have to deal with this and carry on.
Soldier on.
That's right. That's right.
To be fair, I don't know if I've told you this, but I actually felt so much better when I pulled into the driveway.
Because you were home?
Because I was home. I was like,
well, it's always good to go somewhere and see whatever, but it's always nice to be back home too.
Yeah, but it's exhausting. I mean, because I was like a little more on my guard. I didn't have you there, so
yeah,
it's just a little more protective. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm glad you're home.
Right. I'm gonna be traveling again. So this is, I think, the most scary, vulnerable question I've ever asked on the podcast. Right, seriously. Because like you could totally, and I want you to be honest, so I'm not prefacing this, but no, like
I don't tell the truth.
I want you to be, honest. It's fine, but what would you say ambitious women like me should know in communicating and, interacting with their spouse? Like, what could they do that would be helpful, or what should they know so that they can proceed in a healthy way?
Well, I can, in our dynamic, I don't know if anybody knows this, but Julie is rather outgoing. And I'm definitely the introvert. And like you tend to think out loud. Sometimes I think we're having a conversation, but in hindsight, it's more like you're just thinking out loud and and then I start yammering on about how I'm going to fix whatever problem it is, and then it never works out well. So I don't know if that's relevant to anything you just asked, but listen. I think the main thing is listen some more, and then when you're ready to start talking, shut your mouth and listen. So because I mean, there's when I have something that's on my mind, and sometimes I do think out loud. It's far less often.
I think you're doing it more. I think we're rubbing off on each other to where you're actually thinking aloud more, and it's frustrating me because I'm like, if you don't want my input, why are you talking?
I feel frustrated about
I feel like we're starting to do that married couple thing, where
I always like that grumping back and forth dynamic.
I don't want to
always makes me laugh.
No grumping.
I don't know what I was saying.
No, but
listen. Shut your mouth and listen.
What?
And,
Wait, you want what?
Exactly.
Don't interrupt. Just listen.
Seriously, don't interrupt. That's like communication 101. Don't interrupt. But give your wife space. Give your husband space. But women, I think, tend to be more vocal anyway. Even if like the husband and wife are both extroverts, I think women tend to be a little more vocal. Of course, this is a broad brush stroke, but just listen. Let the idea get out there and then kind of come back. Oftentimes she answers her own questions, just by, talking about it.
Verbal processing.
Verbal processing, yeah.
Sometimes it's verbal vomit, and sometimes it's verbal processing.
I mean, sometimes, but I think it's there's almost always value to it, and that's the important thing.
Okay.
Yeah.
So if there was something that you could tell some woman like me, do you like it? I'm separating it from myself to make it not sting so much. Like,
smart.
What advice would you have for her?
I don't know. I mean, don't try to restrain yourself. Like, just be yourself. If you know you have a propensity to be an exaggerator, be aware of that. If you have a tendency to be well, I guess I'd be exaggerating. But if you have a tendency to do like one thing too much, like, be aware of it, but don't restrain yourself. Communicate. Because what I've learned over the years is if you get stuck in your head too much, your spouse starts thinking, well, who's seen that meme, like she's laying there in bed. It's like, I bet he's thinking about other women, and he's thinking about, why can't stormtroopers ever hit their target, or, something like that. And
fair point about stormtroopers, though.
Well, they're terrible. But anyway, it's what your big fear or concern is usually not the case. And when it comes to guys and what we're thinking, we legitimately cannot be thinking anything. Like, I know this is really hard for some people to understand. It took you a while to, still don't know if you totally believe me, but it's true.
I just have envy.
Well, I don't know. We're superior. But let people talk, get it out there, and for those of you who tend to not think out loud or sort of stay in your head, get it out there. She's always telling me to write stuff down, which is really annoying because I don't like writing stuff down. But there are times where it's really valuable to have a checklist, a to-do list, where you can just start scratching stuff off as you do it. Same thing with projects and whatever else you might be working on. So bottom line, don't bottle it up. Even if the other is yammering on and on, hear him out. It's a simple respect issue.
I think that's been a big thing for us. I think we've always had that motto of no fear-based decisions, and communicate.
Yeah. Be direct.
Yeah, be direct. That's what we always said.
Sometimes it's really hard to do,
That's
because,
miserable sometimes.
I mean, who likes to bring up something really uncomfortable?
Oh, me for actually, yeah. I do.
You're probably better at it than most.
Yeah. Oh boy.
But that's a little harder for me. I don't want to hurt anyone's feelings. If it's something, like that one pair of shoes you have, those things are hideous, but you know that, and I've told you. So you just have to deal with that. Yeah. There are certain things that you don't like, but you're just like, whatever. Yeah. We've learned to let those things go. Yeah. I still wear my flannels. I like flannels. Sure you do. I do. I bought you 2 flannels for right. Well, that's fair. For Christmas. Like them. And I like them because I know you like them, and they look good on you. I just like flannel shirts. Yeah. Like a farmer here in North Idaho. But. All right. Well, let's wrap this up. This was kind of centered on marriage, ambitious entrepreneurship, women, balancing that. So yeah, I mean, don't stifle. I mean, if a long time ago when you first started pursuing this whole thing, I mean, I didn't understand it, and who likes to pursue something they don't understand? Most people don't. It's uncomfortable, but It's something you were interested in and something I was not. And I tried to get interested in it.
Oh, that's actually we should record a whole episode on like you're fired.
Oh man, open up the fire hose on that one.
Oh boy. Yeah, that we'll do that in a different episode.
Oh, there'll be a part 2.
Sure, let's do a part 2. If you like this, and I think what's kind of fun is that opposites attract. Steve and I have like definitely done this thing. I think we're balancing each other out as the longer we're staying in our marriage and committed and everything like that. It's like we've just been rubbing off on each other over the years. And I think it's for the best. You've tempered me quite a bit. But if you're, anyone listening can tell, like there's definitely a different energy difference and things like that. And some people, I remember somebody actually asking me like, how does that even work? And it's like, and I told the person, like, if there were 2 of me, I don't think the world could handle it. Like if I was married to someone that had my level of energy and the way I go about things, like I think the world would implode.
It would. Yeah, I don't know. It would be really hard to get anything done because it'd be like idea of ping pong, but
yeah, we never move to action.
Yeah.
Actually, I'm all about taking action. So
you are, but I think you'd get lost in idea central.
Yeah, if there's another one. Yeah, it wouldn't be good. I'm glad you're you. I'm glad, and I'm grateful for.
I'm glad you're you.
Your support over all these years.
Yeah, it's. I was just going to say something that I forgot.
It's okay. We're getting older.
Yeah. But you said we're kind of rubbing off on each other. I mean, after 15, 16, 17, 18 years, whatever.
However many.
I would imagine that would be the case. But, Steve of 5 years ago, 2 years ago, 10 years ago, whatever, I would not be sitting here staring at my face on a screen, talking to people that aren't really here. So hi, whoever's out there.
No, thank you for supporting me. Thanks for stepping out. And if this is helpful, all right, it's a different episode. But if this is helpful to you, make sure that you rate and review it and let us know. Let Steve know, especially. Just be like, Steve, you're awesome in the reviews. So glad Steve joined the podcast. And maybe, if there's something you guys want to know, I'm going to throw this out there for them. Like if there is something that you want to know about navigating entrepreneurship and your marriage or your committed relationship, like shoot me an email, julie@julieholly.com, or, connect with me somehow and just ask questions. We're really transparent and if we have some questions from y'all, maybe we'll do like a question session and record based off of that.
A quest sesh.
Awesome. Love it.
That sounded better in my head.
Awesome. If you want to connect up with Steve about residential real estate, I keep telling him he needs to coach. He is actually super skilled at coaching and he doesn't necessarily know it because it comes so naturally to him. But if you are in residential real estate and you are, looking for someone that can actually like mentor you and coach you through that, he doesn't even know I'm doing this. Like, then make sure that you check out, go connect up with Steve you shoot him an email at stevehollyrealtor@gmail.com.
Making sure you remember.
Well, you have your other one. So I'm like, which one? Yeah. Do you like that I'm doing I'm like promoting you on something? Sweet. I'm just going to push you. This is a case in point of how things, sometimes I just kind of like, open the door for you. Look over here. So,
yeah.
So you can help open the door.
She's been pushing me to coach for a long time.
I have, because he's so amazing at keeping deals together and navigating really difficult transactions. We could do a whole podcast episode on that, but that's like residential real estate.
I have a book in mind. We've talked about this before, but just all this good grief. I won't go into it here.
Different episode. All right. Until next time, live big, love bigger. Feeling alone? Disconnected? Conscious investors often feel alone or disconnected because of their unique perspective and desire to expand their thinking. But the journey of a lifetime isn't meant to be solo or forged by grit alone. Join the Conscious Investor community on Facebook. Link arms, exchange ideas, and expand your thinking on finances, relationship, and community. Join the Conscious Investor group on Facebook today.